and welcome everyone. Thank you for joining me on my channel. For those of you who are new, I'm Pixel Paul, and for those of you who've been before, welcome back and thank you once again for pressing play. So today I've got something a little bit different for you. It's something that I've done on my Instagram account a few times now, and it's always usually gone down pretty well. So I thought, let's recreate that on YouTube and see how it goes. Let's make a video of it. And as you'll see from the title, it's called 10 for a tenner. So basically what that means is I'll pick a console and essentially give you 10 games that you can pick up from, for example, CEX or charity shops, car boot sales for 10 quid. Now this is all based on current CEX prices, of course. If you shop around at charity shops and the car boot sales, as many of us do, you may be able to find them cheaper. Some of these games sort of vary in price from like as little as 50p up to about £1.50, just to keep it within that 10 for a tenner time budget. So today what I'm going to look at is the beautiful PlayStation 2. So you just picked up a PlayStation 2 console, you're new to collecting, PS2's just been bought, and you're thinking, right, how do I start my collection? I've got £10 left in my pocket. What games do I pick up? So these are my sort of recommendations for the first 10 games that you might want to think about buying. So like I say, all these are based on current CEX prices. So of course, if you're sort of watching this video in the future or a couple of months down the line, hello from the past. That was odd. Hopefully the prices may not have changed too much. They may have gone up if you're watching in the distant future, perhaps, I don't know. But at the moment they're based on October 2023 CEX prices. So let's get into it. So starting off with a couple of 50p games. So these are all games that you can get for 50p. So starting off first with a good one, Splinter Cell. So Splinter Cell was originally a bit of an Xbox exclusive. But then it was ported over to some of the other consoles, including the PS2. Splinter Cell's a stealth action game, very much like sort of Metal Gear Solid. If you think of Metal Gear being maybe like your sort of James Bond game, Splinter Cell is that sort of slightly more grounded, say, Jason Bourne game. But it's an absolute classic, really good game. At 50p, it's got to be picked up. So Splinter Cell's your first game. So next up, and I do try to keep these quite sort of varied, so you start off with a relatively kind of varied collection to begin with. So the next one up, I've chosen Pro Evolution Soccer 3. So again, this one's 50p. I've gone for Pro Evo 3 because for me, at the time, this was probably as good as it got. 4 was very good as well, but there was just something about Pro Evo 3 that just... I played it for hours and days and months, and it was just the king of football games. And the great thing with the early sort of Pro Evo games even is that they never really sort of go out of date because of the lack of the license and what have you. You know, it never seems to go out of date. So Pro Evo 3, just to mix it up a little bit, a football game in the first 10 games, good pick up, 50p. So next up, and this is a Rockstar game, very early release for the PS2, and it is Smuggers Run. Bit of a strange one in a way, but it's kind of an open world-ish to a degree. Not racing game, sort of a car combat game, if you like, where you go on missions in various sort of different buggies and trucks. It was a bit of a precursor for sort of GTA 3 in a way. So it is a good game though. Well worth a look. Smuggers Run 2 is good as well, but it's a little bit more pricey than this one. And this one clocks in at 50p. So another good one to pick up. Let's have a quick look at this one. So that was Smuggers Run. So we'll move on next to the £1 games. We've upped the price of these games now, so £1 games now. And the first one up, and I think this is a bit of an underrated gem. A lot of people overlook it because it's a film tie-in, but it's a good. I mean, I quite enjoyed the film. It's not a classic by any stretch of the imagination, but I think the game's quite good. Obviously, it takes a lot of liberties with the film plot, but it's a good one, and it is Peter Jackson's King Kong. So again, it's kind of a first-person shooter. This one loosely based on the film. You can see that there. But yeah, it's a £1 game. You can pick this up quite easily from most sort of, a lot of charity shops. It's a bit of a charity shop favourite, this one. It was released on most of the other consoles as well. But for the PS2, yeah, it's a solid game and well worth £1. So next up, we've got... Now this is, admittedly, I've not played all the way through this one yet, but it's a highly rated game. I've quite enjoyed what I've played so far of it, and it is Summoner. So it's a bit of an action RPG game. Again, quite an early release for the PlayStation 2, this one. But for £1, it's a worthy pickup. Some nice graphics on that one as well. So that's Summoner. Decent game. Next up, it's a sequel, this one. The first game was okay. Again, it was quite an early release, the original one. But this sequel sort of blew that out of the water. It's a really good game. Even now, it still plays really well. A lot of ideas in this game that you sort of still see in first-person shooters these days. So it is Red Faction 2. So the Red Faction games went on to, I think there was another 2 or 3 games after this, possibly 2 main titles for it. Yeah, it's a decent sci-fi shooter with the geomod technology where you could destroy environments around you, which was quite a new thing for first-person shooters around this time. But yeah, Red Faction 2 for £1, another solid pickup. And then next up, we've got, and again this one's for £1, another movie tie-in. It's Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Again, this is one that you can find quite often in charity shops and car boot sales. In fact, I would go as far as saying this is probably the game that I've seen on sale in those sorts of places the most. It's everywhere. But don't let that fool you. Don't let you, don't think that that makes it a bad game by any stretch. It's a decent game. I do think probably Return of the King was slightly better than this, but this fits into the budget and it fits in nicely. And it's a really decent hack and slasher. Let's have a quick look at this one. So that was Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. Another solid £1 pickup. The final 3, so these were all £1.50. So it keeps us all within that £10 budget. So first up, you'll have seen, if you've watched any of my other videos, you'll have seen I picked this one up quite recently. Sadly not for £1.50 though, but it is £1.50 currently at CEX. And that is Gran Turismo 3 A-Spec. Good to have a Gran Turismo game in your initial collection for the PlayStation 2. It's a decent version of it as well. I love the cover for this one. So it's Gran Turismo 3, £1.50. Then next up is, this one's a game that kind of, some people like this game, some people don't like it. I personally really enjoyed it when it first came out. It's quite a grim looking game, quite green and grey, but it wasn't quite the Halo killer either that people, or certain certain parts of the media were trying to make it out to be, but it's still a decent first-person shooter, and that is Killzone. So yeah, again, for £1.50, it's a classic PlayStation title, really, I think, and a really solid first-person shooter. Controls can feel a little bit sluggish and clunky at times, but in some ways that kind of adds to the atmosphere and the feeling of the game. So yeah, Killzone, I think that's a good pick-up. And then finally, and this was actually my first ever PlayStation 2 game. It was one of the reasons I bought a PS2 to begin with. It came out to really, really good reviews. I wouldn't say it was an established franchise at that point. I think there'd been 2 games before this, but they'd both been sort of reviewed quite highly at the time. A little bit limited to the sort of tech for the PlayStation 1 that it was built on, but this sequel was a bit of a system seller to begin with as well for PlayStation 2, and it is Medal of Honor Frontline. So again, this is one of the games that I first picked up for PlayStation 2. A really good game. I think it's had a couple of remasters on versions of other Medal of Honor games. But yeah, it was a real sort of showcase game for the PlayStation 2 originally. So let's have a quick look at that. So that was Medal of Honor Frontline. And that is your PlayStation 2 10 for a tenner. All coming under, well, not under, but at £10 exactly at the moment. And they would make for a pretty decent start to anybody's PlayStation 2 collection, I think. So yeah, thanks for that. I will probably do another one of these videos with another console in the next few weeks, possibly the Xbox original or maybe even Nintendo Wii. I'll have a think, see which one I can get 10 games for a tenner for. But yeah, so I hope you enjoyed that. If you want to sort of put any suggestions in for better 10s, maybe, if you think you can get 10 better games for a tenner, drop it in the comments, or if there's any that you think you could swap out and add another one in, yeah, again, get it into the comments and let me know, and I'll always try and reply and give you my thoughts or feedback. So yeah, thanks again for joining me. If you would like to subscribe to the channel, just hit the subscribe button. If you could give me a like as well on YouTube, that would be much appreciated. And I'll see you for the next one. Thanks for joining me. Bye.